Hi everyone. Have you ever seen an exorcism? Because I have in Ethiopia, and I've seen a couple of them, and I've noticed there are similarities, exorcism with shadow work. And I wanted to talk about that so that you can use your inner exorcist to extricate those inner demons, right? So the way it looks usually, it's more there's usually a lot of people around, and so there's the exorcist, and it's usually a priest, and he places himself in front of the person that is possessed, right? And what he does is he asks two questions. One is, what's your name? And the second one is, what do you want? What do you want from this person? And why am I telling you this? Why am I talking about this possession? Because have you noticed that in your life, you found yourself in situations where you felt like you were, like a part of you, something inside of you overtook your whole self, right? Like as if you were possessed. For example, let's say you're somebody who has a job, a family, you're an adult, you've got life figured out, let's say, and so there's wisdom in you, right? There's knowledge and all that, and suddenly you find yourself in an interaction where you're blundering, you're blathering, you don't know what you're saying, or you've become completely mute. All that wisdom has fled your mind. All the things that you know, it's like there's nothing there. And you've just become this little weakling, small thing there. And you're just looking at them, and they look even bigger. Even if you're twice their size and much bigger than them, suddenly it's almost like you're looking at them from down below. And you're looking for approval, maybe. You're looking at them, you're seeing what they want, what they don't want, and you become hyper attentive to what they want, to what they're saying. And then you come out of that situation, and suddenly you're like, why did I act that way? and you're chastising yourself because you don't know what happened. You feel like a fool now. And you really don't know what happened, right? What happened to you? What possessed you, right? And then so you tell yourself, next time this will never happen again. And guess what? Next time the same thing happens. The third time the same thing happens, right? And let me give you another example. Maybe you're someone who's serious. Normally you're quite serious. And then suddenly you find yourself in a situation, there may be a few people, or maybe even one person. But suddenly, for some reason, it's like something overtakes you, and now you're making dumb jokes. You are making a fool of yourself. And you can't stop. Maybe at some point you're seeing that some people maybe are laughing, but some people are getting annoyed. The more annoyed they get, the more you make a fool of yourself, the more jokes you crack, right? And then you come out of there again, and you're like, what happened? Why did I do that? And if you go back to that moment, you are going to feel like something overtook you. It's almost like you have no free will. Something possessed you. This happened, and you know that next time the same thing will happen again and again and again, right? So that's why I'm bringing in, the exorcist, because what is happening in that moment is not that you're being possessed by some demon. But what is happening in that moment is that you are being possessed by the parts of you that are in the shadow. And when I say parts of you that are in the shadow, I'm not saying that there is some malignant thing in you, because shadow brings up that idea. Shadow means this. There are parts of you that are shrouded in the fog of shadow, right? So you can't see, it's over there, it's separated from you, it's not in you, it's outside, right? It's over there, you can't see it, you can't hear it, you don't understand it. There is some form that you can perceive, but it's not clear at all. And that thing over there that you can't understand, you don't know what it is actually part of you, right? But in that moment, you don't know. And that's why when you hear the word shadow, that's what it means. Now, many times when it comes to shadow, we think bad things about shadow. It's true that the more you repress that shadow, the more you separate yourself from that shadow, the more destructive it becomes. That part of you becomes destructive. So that's why usually we have that idea that shadow is bad. So it's not that the shadow itself is bad, it's that the more you separate yourself, the more you resist it, the more it takes over. And like with the example I gave, it's either you become this little child that is blundering and has no, is clueless, and you feel like a fool, or the other one where you're acting around, you're playing the clown, and you just, you feel as if you are out of control, as if you had no free will, which is scary, right? Because you're like, what the hell is happening in this moment? And yeah, there is no control in that moment, and that is something that makes it so that you want to control it even more. But by doing that, and you do it by resisting it, right? Repressing it, saying, no, it shouldn't happen, it will never happen, which is a resistance, which is a separation. And guess what? Voila, it happens again, and it gets worse and worse and worse. And that's why it becomes destructive. So what to do about that? What to do so that those parts don't overtake you, don't possess you? What you do is you do exactly what the exorcist does, which is the exorcist looks at the one that is possessed, right? Or the one that possesses, actually, because even if he's looking at the person that is possessed, he's actually talking directly to the demon, right? So what you do is you go towards it. How do you go towards it? When was the last time, when was the last time you go back to a trigger? My battery is low, and that's why I hope I'll be able to finish this video. So you go back to your trigger. Let's say you go back to that moment where you felt all small. You go back to the moment where you were making jokes and you're completely out of control, let's say, or you felt possessed. You go back to that moment. You feel into your body, right? You go into your body. Don't stay in the mind, because it's not enough. It's not going to help you in that moment. You feel into your body. You take a few deep breaths in and out. You feel into your body, and you turn towards that moment, that memory, that trigger. So instead of saying, I don't want it, you're actually going towards it, right? And you're looking at it. And you take these, you ground yourself in the moment, you ground yourself in your body, and you start seeing what happened in that moment. What was happening in your body in that moment? What triggered it? What was that happened, right? And maybe in that moment, you'll start realizing that, for example, for the example of the person that was cracking jokes all the time, Maybe in that moment you realized that in that situation, there was this negative energy that came in. Maybe there was sadness. Maybe there was anger. Maybe there was something for you that was negative for you, that made you feel unsafe. So suddenly the clown archetype in you came up, and it's like, let's make people laugh. Even if it's at my expense, but I need to make them laugh so that I keep myself safe, right? And you'll start seeing that, right? You'll start seeing how you're playing, and how in that moment there is that switch, there's that moment where you're like, it's unsafe. And the clown archetype comes, and let's do something about this, let's make it safe. And so you see, when you go towards it, you just, when you feel into it, you start seeing what it is that came up. Like with the Exorcist, what's your name? The name maybe is the clown, right? There's a clown in you. And the clown is beautiful, but sometimes in the shadow, the clown tries to get rid of everything that is negative, sadness and all that. And have you noticed that comedians, which are, most of them have the clown archetype, at some point they tell you in the tabloids and everything that they're depressed or they committed suicide. Most of the time it's because that's the shadow clown. The shadow clown doesn't know how to deal with negative emotions. And it really tries to do everything to bring people up, to make people laugh and everything. There's a beautiful opera, an aria on the clown, where there's this clown that is crying and saying, I need to make them laugh or something like that, because they paid, so I need to make them laugh. And there is a sadness in that clown, and it's so beautiful, because if you have that clown archetype, you will definitely resonate with this. I'll put the aria down below. It's amazing. So anyways, going back to the to the first example. With the first example, again, it's about going back to that trigger, to that moment where you felt small, where you saw that person that was, big, out there, and you became this blundering person, blundering child. And maybe you're looking at them, maybe in that moment you see, and it's really about being there and asking questions. It's not about judging, right? It's just about completely and utterly being present with that part. The exorcist really asks questions and is there completely with that demon, right? And so in that moment, maybe you'll start realizing that you felt like a child. You felt all small, right? And that's why it's the child that took over. A child of yours that is in the shadow and that maybe is looking for approval. What's your name? What do you need? What is the need there? Maybe the need is for approval here. And you'll find it out when you go inside. That child will talk to you. Just like with the exorcist. When the exorcist asks question, oh my God, that demon is a chatterbox. It will say so many things. It will give a lot of information. And that's what's going to happen in that moment. Where in that moment, you will see that what you need is approval. So if you don't want to be possessed by that part, you need to go for approval. So maybe you're someone who does a lot of work and you're always doing a lot and you're giving yourself very little approval, very little breadcrumbs. And maybe this part of you is saying, I'm tired of doing all this work. I'm tired of earning people's love. I'm tired of earning people's attention. I want to be approved of. And you know, you can actually ask people, tell them, you know, I'm really thirsty and hungry for approval. Can we sit down? Can you tell me I don't know, what you like about me? Can we do that? Can we do that more? You yourself doing it for yourself, giving it to yourself. And in that moment, when you start asking, when you start going towards it, there may be a lot of shame that will come up. But that's also something to take in, because that's the shame. The shame is the separation between you and that little one. And so by feeling into the shame, you will see that the shame will say, maybe, who are you to ask for that? You're nothing, and things like that. And do you really want to live with those kind of thoughts and beliefs? I mean, really? Why? You know, maybe it's time to let them go. And you let them go by feeling into them. And when you do that, that possession cannot happen. Why? Because now that part is inside of you. You've integrated the shame, the separation, you've integrated the little one, you've integrated the clown. You've also integrated with the clown, the need was to be in connection with the negative, the so-called, let's say, or the bad emotions, like I don't know, sadness and things like that, because that's how you perceive them from the clown archetype. And so it's about, you take them in, you take that sadness, you integrate your sadness, you make it yours. And you start talking about it, you start showing it. You're not only the funny one, you're both. You're the sad and the funny one. In the clown, there's both masks, the sad one and the funny one, right? And that's the integrated, that's the light clown, the clown in the light. So I hope this is clear. So use your exorcist. Go towards your demons. When you get, you know, overtaken, possessed, when you feel possessed by a part of you, go towards it. See ask it its name. Feel into it. What is it exactly, right? And what does it want? And when you know what it wants, go towards, take the necessary steps to fulfill those needs. And once you do that, the moment you start taking those steps, the possession goes away, because you've taken it in. So if you have any questions, any comments, let me know down below. And if you want to work on your patterns, on your archetypes, if there is something that, you know, possessed you and you're not clear about it, then you can always book a session with me, and see you in my next video. Ciao, ciao.